In a previous video, we looked at the case of wheat, and we looked at what happened when we took an input into wheat production, nitrogen, and increased the amount of nitrogen that we applied, and how that greater amounts of nitrogen increased yields. And we looked at how the two stages of production was evident in this table. What we're going to do here in this video is look at the cost of wheat production. We're going to be looking at something called fixed cost, something called variable cost, and then total cost. If I give you a table of hypothetical nitrogen amounts and the corresponding wheat yields, for you to take that and figure out what's the cost of producing wheat, you need to be given prices, and that's what's going on right here. I'll give you a range of prices. The one that's important for us right here is one, the price of nitrogen, the input that we're using to increase yield. There's fixed costs, and then there's other variable costs. Now these terms fixed and variable costs are probably new to you, so let's go through those. Fixed costs, as the name implies, are costs that remain fixed as output, in this case wheat yield, changes. Notice up here that I've given you fixed costs, and they're at $50 per acre. And down here in our table, this row right here, the second row, that's the case where we don't produce any wheat. And even if we don't produce any wheat, we still have to pay that fixed cost of $50. Then if we decide to increase the amount of nitrogen we apply so that we get more yield, that fixed cost still remains at $50. An example of fixed cost is if you buy a tractor to help you farm wheat, you may take out a loan on that tractor. And that annual loan payment that you make to the bank stays the same, it's constant, regardless of whether you let that tractor sit idle in a shed all year long or whether you're running the tractor all year long raising wheat. So you probably see this coming. A variable cost is a cost that varies as output changes. It usually goes up the more you produce. With wheat yield, for us to produce more wheat, we need more wheat seed, we often need more fertilizer, we need more tractor fuel, we need more pesticides. All those inputs that you need more of and have to spend more money to get as output rises, those are variable costs. And in our example, what we're looking at mainly is how nitrogen use affects yield. And so nitrogen's not free. And what I do there is I give you the price of nitrogen, and I tell you that it's 10 cents per pound of nitrogen that you apply. Now in this example, we're only looking at the input nitrogen, but of course we know that there are lots of other variable inputs besides fertilizer. Pesticides, seeds, tractor fuel, all that. And I'm grouping all of those into other variable costs of $50 per acre. And even though that's going to stay, look over here in this column, variable costs other than nitrogen. If we don't produce any wheat, then those variable costs are zero. If we don't produce any wheat, we don't buy any tractor fuel, we don't buy any wheat seed, etc. But as long as we are producing some wheat, the cost of those other inputs are $50. So they do change as output changes somewhat. But we're concentrating mainly on nitrogen. And now let's look at this column, the cost of our nitrogen application per acre. However much nitrogen we do decide to apply, that nitrogen cost is going to equal the nitrogen price times the pounds of nitrogen that we apply. Now we know the nitrogen price, it's 10 cents per pound. So let's suppose we are going to apply 30 pounds of nitrogen per acre. The nitrogen price is 10 cents per pound, and the pounds of nitrogen that we're applying are 30. And so our nitrogen costs are just $3 per acre. That's where this number comes from. And if you do that for all the different levels of nitrogen that you can apply, you get these numbers. The last thing we want to look at are the total costs. And in the table I called it total private costs. That may not mean nothing to you right now, but private cost just means that that's the cost that the farmer pays. The total cost to the farmer is just going to be all the variable costs, the nitrogen and the other variable costs, plus the fixed costs. Of course, total cost, you just sum up all the costs. And again, let's look at the case of 30 pounds of nitrogen per acre. We see that the cost of nitrogen is $3. The fixed cost is $50. The other variable cost is $50, and so our total costs are $103. And if you do that for all the rows, all the different values of nitrogen, you get these costs. You see, as you increase nitrogen so that you can increase wheat yield, your costs do go up. In the next video, we'll look at comparing the cost of different levels of wheat yield to the revenues to see what the profit maximizing level of nitrogen application is.